All right, Sports Bash Grayson's grades. Here we go. I'm imagining the report card has a lot of red pen. That's just my thought. I gave Peterson a D- yesterday. I gave Wentz an F. I couldn't give them both F minuses.
I can. Easily.
We'll see what Scott Grayson put out there. How many Fs for that one yesterday? Grayson's grades are up at 97.3 ESPN. Peterson, Schwartz, both in the F category. Scott Grayson, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm all right. So you went with Peterson and Schwartz at F, and Wentz got the D for you. Let's get into that. Let's start with Peterson. We've been going back and forth. I thought Peterson was horrendous yesterday. I gave him a D-, F, whatever you want to give him. I thought he was horrible. But they weren't prepared. It was a lousy game plan. F for Peterson.
Yeah, I thought, once again, they came out flat. And I just thought, I'm mad at myself, I think, for believing that this team, as it got healthy and had a bye, was going to come out and just, I'm not saying play 4 quarters of solid football, but a little more than maybe 2 quarters of solid football, limit the turnovers, which they did. And, beat the Giants handily, ultimately, by the time the game was over. And it was obviously nothing like that. I saw a team that just looked uninspired. I saw a team that I think got outcoached. I saw a coach who came out of a bye and his team wasn't ready to go. And as I was doing the grades, that's why the only Fs were the 2 coaches, because I just felt like from a coaching perspective, these guys were not in a position to succeed.
Jim Schwartz, you gave him an F as well. I think it's all encompassing that they just came out and did not have a very good game plan out of the bye there. So I want to go to Wentz. You gave him a D. Inconsistent again. You mentioned he completes less than 60% of his passes. So give us the story on Wentz.
Yeah, I just felt like part of the problem with Wentz was that the play calls were awful. And so I sat there and I'm like, look, he didn't turn the ball over, and that's the only reason I didn't give him an F, was at least there was improvement on that side of things. He also, and I can't believe we're saying it this way, but was only sacked 3 times. Which was an improvement as well. There were times that I did see him throw the ball away. So there were things that he did improve on coming out of the bye. However, he was still throwing behind guys. He was still missing guys downfield when they did take a couple of chances down there. He did have Alshon Jeffrey on the one target. He threw to him open and missed him. There's certainly a bunch of blame to go around here. And I just felt like in Carson's case, I was going to give him a passing grade of a D, based on the sole fact that at least he didn't turn it over, and that by itself at least allowed the defense to have a little better chance to try to stop these guys, but obviously they didn't. So, I think Wentz still stinks. He's got a lot to improve on. He's got a lot better stuff that he's got to do. Even the short passes, he couldn't complete those to Miles Sanders, which was partly on Sanders as well, but I think Wentz just needs to – I just think this guy is not confident right now. And if I'm Doug Peterson, I'm putting together a game plan that's going to build his confidence as the game goes on. And none of that is there for either one of those 2 guys.
Unfortunately, we are at the point now where you saying he didn't turn it over gets him a passing grade instead of a failing grade, and that just shows you everything you need to really know about Wentz to this point. But how about Jason Kelce? I thought that was one of the strangest games we have seen out of him with all the low snaps.
Yeah, so I gave him a C, and that's because from a blocking perspective, I thought Kelce was right on. I mean, you could see during the game broadcast, they did a good job of showing how he single-handedly kicked out a corner and freed Boston Scott to go, 53 yards for the score. It was an impressive block. Kelce did some good things getting off the line of scrimmage, but 4 bad snaps, that alone really kills a play before it even gets the chance to get going. And so that's a huge problem for a center. So I felt like from a blocking perspective, I'd have given Jason Kelce an A. But from the simple fact that 4 plays got shot in the foot before they even got going, that's bad. So I had to drop him 2 grades for that and gave him a C, because I felt like there's a lot of things Kelce does well. And I love the guy. The guy is a Philadelphia player through and through. He wore that on his sleeve when he at the Super Bowl parade, of course. There's nobody more Philadelphia Eagle than Jason Kelce. So I hate to talk bad about the guy, but the 4 bad snaps were awful. Has to be better. He can't make those mistakes, and he knows that. So those are definitely things that can easily be fixed, and I would imagine that will be fixed this week.
Scott, we're going back and forth like this chicken or egg. I mean, I thought Peterson was awful. bad game plan, poor play calling. That being said, Wentz is so bad that I think it makes the game plan, like if there's a play on 2nd down and 7, the guy's open, and he simply does not make an elementary throw. How much harder does that make? I mean, yeah, could Doug do better jobs of getting him out, moving him? But should he have to do that? Like, is his quarterback to the point that he's that bad that he can't call basic plays that 95% of the quarterbacks in this league are just simply throwing that ball, pitching and catching? So do you find more blame at Peterson and his play calling or Wentz and his inability? I mean, he's completing 58%. That is by far the worst in football. It's not close. I mean, every guy's over 60 but him. So do you look at Wentz's inaccuracies, the bigger issue, or Peterson and his play call?
Well, I think they could have won yesterday with Wentz playing the way he did, as bad as it was. I think you could simply look at what is Carson Wentz near the league lead in as far as quarterbacks go, and every single one of those categories is not good. That's not where you want to be. So there's definitely a lot of blame to go around for Carson Wentz. But you have Miles Sanders rushing at almost 6 yards per carry. Why is he only getting 15 carries? You had Boston Scott blow up one play. He's been killing the Giants. Why did he only get 3 carries? So I'm going to point the finger more at Doug Peterson yesterday, and I'm at the point now where, his game plan is so vanilla. I feel like it's predictable. We've talked about that before. I feel like other teams know what's coming, and if I've got a quarterback who's struggling to make the simple throws down the field a little bit over the middle, I'm going to start. Where's the screen game been? They threw one yesterday, and it was I thought it was a decently designed play where Jalen Reagor came in motion, went around Wentz, goes back the other way. They quick flipped it out to him, and he got a first down. They ran it once. Why aren't you going back to that or a variation of that at some point? It's a simple completion. It's productive. It's quite frankly as good as a running play. When you're running the ball at the clip they were running yesterday, Mike, I don't understand why you don't run more. Why are you throwing 37 times compared to just 18 carries between Miles Sanders and Boston Scott? And you want to throw Corey Clement in there and his 1 5-yard touchdown run, fine, that's 19 carries. That is such a lopsided, run-pass ratio, which Doug has constantly been at. There's no sign of self-scouting going on, in my opinion, on Doug's perspective. The play calling is just not creative. I just think that, as far as I'm concerned, Doug is squarely on the hot seat. Let's call it a love seat and put Howie Roseman right there next to him. And then you got Carson Wentz, in my opinion, standing right behind them, leaning on the love seat, asking the two guys how they're doing. The three of them together, I think, quite frankly, right then and there. And you could put Jim Schwartz in the category. I mean, you could potentially blow this whole thing up as far as I'm concerned because I'm not seeing things going forward. As far as Carson Wentz goes, I think he's been a victim of a lot of coaching changes behind the scenes. I think he's been a victim of not really buying into some of what's been told to him since Frank Reich and John DeFilippo left. And I wonder, it's a lot easier to change a lot of things behind the scenes and say, would a change of scenery in terms of coaches give Carson Wentz a fresh lease on life? Does he just need the chalkboard erased? Look at Nelson Aguilar in Vegas. He's actually catching touchdowns. We didn't see that here because he needed a fresh change of scenery. I can give Carson Wentz that without necessarily removing him from Philadelphia and possibly get back to the Carson that he was closer to it in 2017.
I want to get your thoughts on this. When I see Jason Garrett dial up a game plan with Daniel Jones and trying to do the read options or any sort of RPO, something that tricks the defense, it felt like they studied the Eagles. They realized that is something that they are bad at, and they felt the need to attack that, and it worked. When I watch Doug Peterson's offense, it's never about what the other team is bad at. It's always about their offense and what they do. It doesn't seem like they game plan to actually attack what other teams are bad at.
Yeah, I mean, they had some bad corners in New York, and how many times did they take a shot downfield? Rarely. I'm thinking, you're going to at least try to run a couple of things down there. But here's my problem, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on what you said, Hunter. You look at the fact that he does not call plays that set up other plays later in the game where you say, oh, okay, that looks like a play they ran before. Oh, but wait, now they're going deep off of it. There's nothing that sets something else up. There is no rhyme or reason to a game plan. They may have success on a drive, but they can't put two successful drives together. They can't come out and build off of something and grab momentum in a game. And they can't grab it with both hands and start stomping on the throat of an opponent, partly because they can't even get on top of somebody early in the game because they come out flat every week. So I think this is a come-to-Jesus week for this team. It needs to be, and I think we're going to learn a lot about what kind of team they are. Of the next 5 games, this one to me is probably the most winnable. And you're going to have to come out and be ready to play this week or forget it. You might end up losing all 5 of these games.
Yeah, and I agree with both of what you guys are saying. I feel like there's a lot of chicken and egg here, though. Like, they can't get any momentum in the offensive drive because they can't complete a simple pitch and catch on like a normal, when you've got Goddard open and you airmail him 3 times, I mean, that's a normal quarterback, that's a first down. That moves the sticks. You start over and get into a rhythm. They constantly are playing from behind the sticks because they can't complete basic play calls.
Well, they can't, look, I agree with you in the sense that Carson stunk. There's no doubt. But here's my thing. If I would have spent this bye week, if I were Doug, sitting down with Carson and saying, listen, forget the game plans we've had. I want you to tell me, what are your 5 to 10 favorite plays to run? And we're going to make sure we run all 10 of those plays at some point in this game. Because that tells me these are the plays he's most confident in. These are the plays that he feels that we can have the most success with. And maybe we'll try to build his confidence by letting him run the plays he feels most comfortable running. I don't see any confidence from Carson. I don't see Doug trying to build confidence in Carson. I agree with you. I don't know which one comes first, chicken or the egg. I don't know if Doug's trying to call things that he thinks Carson can do well, but even the plays over the middle. Carson's a pretty tall guy. Why are so many passes getting tipped and batted down?
Right, there was that one yesterday where the announcers were like, "That's just a horrible throw," and then you go back and look at it, and it gets tipped at the line. You're thinking, how is this guy 6'5" getting his passes tipped at the line? Right. And that kind of says to me, anyway, that he's got bad mechanics.
He's not. Well, you could see it, particularly on that play. I sat there and I went, "Oh, look at that." He does not step into his throws. His mechanics, I've been saying this for weeks and even into last season. Since DeFilippo and Reich left, his mechanics have been steadily going downhill. I don't know that anybody's working with him on mechanics. I don't see any of that. What he really needs is, in this offseason, if he makes it there, is to get a real quarterback coach to work with. Somebody who's going to work with him one-on-one every day, because I don't feel like he's getting the help he needs right now here. And if he is, and the advice is being given, and sometimes you sense from Doug Peterson that the messages and the lessons have been tried to be conveyed to Carson, and Carson, with his alpha mentality, might think he knows better and isn't doing it. I sense from Doug that that's happening. I don't know that for sure, obviously, and we can't get in the locker room, so we have no idea what these guys are like moments after these losses. But, yeah, I think Carson's mechanics are god-awful right now, and the results are the sailing of the high throws, the ones that get tipped. Part of the tipping, and I will say this, is probably due to, at least on that play, too, that we were talking about, the one to Miles Sanders that got tipped at the line. I mean, the guy wasn't that far away from him. So, the blocking hasn't exactly been awesome up front as well. And that's another thing we can go into if you want. Why is Jason Peters still playing left tackle when you're shuffling a whole bunch of other stuff on the line? And that's a coaching move. That's a coaching decision. And sometimes I wonder if Jason Peters has some dirt on these guys, tell them exactly how he wants to play and where he wants to play, because he's getting his way every time.
Well, it's that, too. And, Scott, we talked about it last week, and I know that the snap counts say that Jeffrey did not play a lot yesterday, and he didn't really take a lot of snaps from Fulgham. But it was the whole aesthetics of him starting the game, and it's like Fulgham's like, dude, I have done more than everybody in the league for the most part, but like 5 guys, and this guy comes back and I'm back. I'm not starting the game. Like, you kind of give him a mental, confident, like loss of confidence. It's like those type of things that you're like, was there any need for Jeffrey to be even active at this point?
Well, I don't mind him being active because I got to believe, but then use him because I got to believe he's a better option than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. And so I'm okay with Jeffrey. But I agree with you. For everything Fulgham has done, what message do you send the team when Jeffrey comes back his first game without getting too many reps on the field and takes Fulgham's starting spot? What does the rest of the team think as they see that? You're right. I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes here that I wish we could get a better read on because, look, they've fought back in some games and had to come from behind, and they've won them. They beat the Giants the first time that way. But this feels like the kind of loss that, I got to believe there's some finger pointing going on, although they're all to blame.
Now, let me ask you this.
And you look at
this feels a little bit like that Dolphins moment from last year where, oh, my gosh, you lost to the Dolphins. You look terrible. You were uninspired. The coach is awful. And then they shoved it to us and took off, and now they beat a lot of bad teams along the way. But my point is, almost every time that you have thought the team has been down and out over the last couple of years, they have figured out a way. I don't see much of signs of that happening, but would that be a surprise to you if they, in fact, figured it out and got this thing in the right direction?
Yeah, because I just feel like there's so many things that they have to fix in 6 days that I don't see that happening, at least, this week. Now, like I said, I think this team is potentially beatable, but, from a defensive standpoint, Cleveland, yes. They could potentially win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but you are right. There have been these defining losses in each of the last few seasons that have caused this team to do a 180 for some odd reason, whatever it may be. They clearly can't just run out and take control of the division and put it away. Every year they seem to need to get the flair for the dramatic and run this thing down to the end and finish strong. Well, how many times can you go to that well is my question, because what I saw was I saw two teams going in opposite directions yesterday. The Giants, to me right now, are the team I'm thinking could actually win this division. And the Eagles are the team that are going south and potentially might only win 2 more games.
Scott Grayson's grades are posted at 973 ESPN, and you can check out the full list of grades right there. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Scott, thanks, man.
All right, enjoy your Monday, guys.
We're trying to here. Grayson's grades are being brought to you by Cross County Connection, the region's transportation management association, dedicated to improving the quality of life in South Jersey through transportation solutions. Learn more about Cross County Connection online at driveless.com.